Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Rachel, and today I'm going to be talking about all of the books that I want to read in the month of November. So I'm just gonna say right now, my November TBR is stacked. It is the month of fantasy and the month of chunky books. I have so many long books on my TBR, you guys. I am just hoping that I will be able to get them done in this month because a lot of them are very anticipated reads for me, 5-star predictions. Basically, with next month being December and end of year content looming, I realized that there's still a lot of books that I want to read before that time, and there's a lot of books on my November TBR that I think could be potential new favorites, new all-time favorites, best books of the year. So I sort of am screwing myself over this month because there is not a book under, I think, 400 or 500 pages on my TBR, but I am excited. I'm very, very excited to read all these books, don't get me wrong. I just think it's gonna be a lot. It's gonna be definitely a lot. So please send me your posy vibes. Without further ado, let's get into it. Let me talk to you guys about all of these books that I hope to get read this month. So the first book on my November TBR is going to be Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor. This is a booktube darling. I feel like so many people love this book. I've heard just nothing but incredible things. I am hopeful that I absolutely fall in love. So I don't know too much about this book. It's a YA fantasy, and I know that our main character searches for the lost city of Weep, which sounds magical and fun. And I have just heard that the writing is so flowery and lyrical and beautiful, and that is a writing style that I really connect to. I have not read anything from Laini Taylor, but I am excited, and Hannah loves this book. She gave it 5 stars. I think it's one of her favorites of all time. So I do think I will love it as well. And I'm really, really hoping that this one works out. The next book on my November TBR is The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern. I've read The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern, and that is one of my favorite books of all time. I think it is gorgeous. I think it is so magical. I read that book last November in front of my Christmas tree because the holiday season does start on November 1st. I didn't know if you guys know that, but it does. So I, of course, had my Christmas tree up already very early in November, and that is when I read The Night Circus for the first time, and it was a vibe, okay? 10 out of 10 recommend reading that book in front of some twinkly lights. It was truly an experience. But I am now going to be reading her next novel, which is The Starless Sea. This is a YA fantasy as well. I think there's a library component. I could be wrong. I don't know. I know literally nothing about this book, and honestly, that is what I want because her writing is so magical and beautiful and like atmospheric. I think it's really fun to go into her books, at least with The Night Circus, as I did, not really knowing much. So I'm hopeful that I really, really like this book. Hannah, also shout out Hannah. Hannah's gonna be talked about a lot in this video. My TBR is essentially inspired by her, as it should be. She said that she thinks this could potentially be one of my best books of the year. And that's a big statement coming from her. So I'm very excited. I have very high hopes. I hope this is a 5-star, and it's just so beautiful. So I am really, really looking forward to this. The next book on my November TBR is Kingdom of the Feared by Kerri Maniscalco. So this is the third and final book in the Kingdom of the Wicked trilogy. I didn't love the first 2 books. I liked them. They were okay, but I'm really, really hoping that with the finale, I am going to end up really loving it and maybe have a new appreciation for the trilogy as a whole. If you don't know, this is also another YA fantasy. We have witches, we have princes of hell that are inspired by the 7 deadly sins. We go to hell, there's demons, there's a murder mystery. All of these things I love, and I am just surprised that the series hasn't really worked for me thus far. I don't know what it is, but I just don't quite connect to Kerri Maniscalco's writing, I think. But hopefully, maybe I will like this book. I say that just because Lachlan didn't really like the first 2 books either, but she loved this book and gave it 5 stars, which is saying a lot, I think. So I'm going into this very open-minded. I am buddy reading this with Christina over at Christina's Chapters, and we are both just so excited. So the next book on my November TBR I'm so excited for, and it has been on a TBR before, is Jade City by Fonda Lee. This was on my September TBR, but I just did not get to it. I have like the highest hopes for this book. I think I'm going to love it. I've seen countless people say that this is their favorite series of all time, the full Greenbone saga. And so because of that, I think it's one of those things where it's like I'm intimidated by how much I could either love it or if it just disappoints me. But I'm very much looking forward to this. The premise sounds amazing, and a lot of people that I trust here on BookTube really love this series, so I do think that I am going to enjoy it. The Greenbone saga follows a world where Jade is kind of the power source for people, and I believe families kind of war over the control of that power source. So I think that that's a very fantastic premise. I've heard Fonda Lee's writing is incredible, and I'm very excited. I really, really hope that I love this. This is definitely a 5-star prediction for me, and I just need to read it. As I said, I'm just like, I want this to be a book that I love so, so bad. So I'm just super, super hopeful that I will be able to fall in love with this. The next book on my November TBR is the shortest book on my TBR, and gonna be kind of a palate cleanser in between all of these denser fantasies that I read, and that is Black Sunshine by Karina Hale, or Hale, I believe. So this is a paranormal romance. It's set in a contemporary world, I believe in San Francisco, Francisco. And we have the classic human girl grows up, has no idea that she's a vampire. She gets kidnapped by a vampire, as you do. And I believe he struggles with wanting to kill her, but also like falling in love with her. I believe he sort of helps her grow into her vampirical ways. And I just heard it's a good, fun, paranormal romance, vampire, smutty time. So I think this is gonna be really, really fun. And also this author just came out with a Dracula retelling, kind of in the same vein, that kind of contemporary setting. I believe it takes place in Italy. And I think this sounds so fun. I love a good paranormal romance. So I am very excited for this. The next book on my November TBR is going to be Glow, the 4th book in the Plated Prisoner series, another book that has been on TBR's past. Hannah and I were supposed to read this in July when it came out, and that did not happen, and that is all my fault. I apologize, but I was just never in the mood to pick this up. I don't know why. I mean, part of it is I really want the audiobook to come out, and it has not come out yet, and I had the audiobook for the first 3 books, and I really enjoyed that experience, so I think because of that, I kind of just put it off, but I am in the mood now. I want to pick this book up. I am excited for this. I will be buddy reading it with Hannah again, and I'm excited because in the first 3 books, we were building up to something, and that thing finally happened, and now that that has been taken care of, I am hopeful that the plot will kind of go in a more interesting and fantastical way. So I did like the first 3 books, but that storyline, I was just waiting because I was like, I knew it was going to happen. I wanted it to be handled, and now that it has been, I think that this book has potential to be my favorite in the series thus far, so I'm very excited. This is an adult fantasy romance. It's a King Midas retelling, and it's a really fun world and an interesting premise, and so I'm just really, really hopeful that Hannah and I both love this. The next book on my November TBR is Empire of the Vampire by Jay Kristoff. I'm gonna be honest with you right now, no idea what this book is about. I assume it has vampires. I know it's an adult fantasy, and that's literally it. I imagine it's kind of gothic. That's the vibe that I get. I just think this book is so stunning, like the cover, and then also this book has art in it, which is just such a nice touch. I have said this many times. I just want all fantasy novels to have art in them. Like, I think that that adds to the reading experience so much. I think it makes it way easier to visualize the characters and the settings, and just the fact that this book is so stunning makes me so excited to read this. So I'm reading this with a bunch of my friends, Lachlan and Amanda. This is one of their favorite books of all time, so they kind of convinced a bunch of us to pick it up this month. I have no idea what to expect, so I'm very excited, and I'm just gonna go into this with no knowledge and kind of just let the story waft over me, if you will, and hopefully I love this one. The next book on my November TBR, I am so excited to read, literally cannot wait. It is my favorite book, and it is a reread, and that is A Court of Silver Flames. Over the past few months, I have been rereading the ACOTAR series, and I am now finally at ACOSF, which this book just, it means the world to me. I connected to it in a way that I just haven't really connected to many books in my life before, and I am so excited to get to experience that again. This book has fantastic mental health representation. I connected in so many ways. I also think female friendship is done really well in this book, and I just think it's so beautiful how celebrated it is in this book, and also the romance is just like top tier. Potentially unpopular opinion, this is the best couple in the ACOTAR series. I'm sorry, I hate to say it, but they are my absolute favorites. And as you can see, I have this very stunning edition of A Court of Silver Flames, which I was gifted by my beautiful best friend Hannah over at Hannah's Recent Reads. So if you did not see the vlog where I unboxed this, I'll have it linked down below. You should go check it out because it's quite a trip watching that. But Hannah surprised me with a completely annotated and customized edition of my favorite book. I had no idea she was doing this. One day she asked me for my address, and that was it. That was my only inkling that she was even sending me anything. And when I opened the box, I was just stunned. I burst into tears. It was an emotional time. I am so looking forward to this reading experience, not only because it's my favorite book, I'm going to experience it again, it's going to be a great time, but I will get to see Hannah's annotations. She also made a Spotify playlist, and the Spotify playlist is linked in here. And then she also wrote the songs on certain pages for certain scenes to guide me to listen to certain songs while I read those scenes, just like her mind, you know, she's amazing. So I just think that this is going to be an incredible time. Like, I don't think I will ever have a reading experience like this again. When I first got the book, I started looking through her annotations, but I quickly stopped myself because I was like, no, I want to experience this and read what she has to say and what she wants me to pay attention to and what her thoughts are as I read it. And I think it's just gonna be such a good time. So Hannah, once again, thank you. I literally owe you my life. This is just gonna be so much fun, and honestly, probably the highlight of my month. The next book on my November TBR is Mother of Death and Dawn, which is the third book in the War of Lost Hearts trilogy by Carissa Broadbent. So I read the first book, Daughter of No Worlds, in October, just a few weeks ago, and it blew my mind. I was not expecting to fall in love with that book as much as I did. I hoped that I would, but I really did not know. And I ended up giving that book 5 stars. It is a new favorite for me, and I'm just so excited by this trilogy. So I've read the first book. Literally, as soon as I'm done filming this, I'm going to go start the second book. So I hope that I enjoy that. And then I will be reading the finale in November. This is definitely my favorite cover, by the way. It is so, so beautiful. And once again, I just have to show these. The naked book is really gorgeous as well. So this is an adult fantasy romance series. Our main character's name is Tisana. Tisana grew up in slavery. We meet her when she's about 21 and she is able to escape. And her whole life plan is she wants to go to the orders, which are kind of like the government / military in this world. She wants to train with them, hone her magic, become a wielder, and hopefully avenge her family and go save the enslaved people of where she came from. But then the plot just like blows up and there's this whole other thing kind of brewing underneath all of that. Gets revealed and it's just crazy and it's amazing, and I just fell in love. I just fell in love with that first book. The first book also has this amazing, extremely slow burn romance, but it's truly kind of like reluctant allies, 2 friends, 2 lovers. It's a really, really well done, realistic romance, I think, and Max and Tisana just have my heart. I think about them all the time still. So this is the finale of the series. I am hoping so badly that I love the second and third book as much as I loved the first book, and that I will be able to have like a new favorite fantasy romance series to recommend to you all. I definitely recommend the first book. It's incredible, and I just really, really hope that this is a wonderful finale and a 5-star read. The next book on my November TBR is The Serpents and the Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent, once again, same author of the War of Lost Hearts trilogy. So this is her new series. Only the first book is out, and this is a vampire fantasy romance, and the premise of this one is our main character, she is a human, but she was adopted by a vampire king, I think, and once she is of age, she has to kind of prove herself to the other vampires. I believe she competes in like a fight to the death Hunger Games style tournament, and there's like vampire houses that are competing against each other. There's a romance aspect. It sounds incredible. So I am so excited to get to this. This will probably be one of the first books I read in November because I just have so much hype for it. I feel like Carissa Broadbent is potentially going to be one of my new favorite authors because what I've read so far of hers, I really, really enjoy. The premise of this sounds incredible, and I've had friends read this and they say that it's amazing, and so hopefully I love it as well. All right, and the very last book on my November TBR is going to be House of Earth and Blood, also by Sarah Janet. So this is the first book in the Crescent City series. I have read this book 2 times before, but I am going to be rereading House of Sky and Breath in December. It's definitely a contender for my best book of the year, so I want to reread it and kind of see how I feel upon a reread. So I wanted to read the first book before I got into that. This is such an amazing book. It's one of my favorite books by her. It is an urban fantasy, which was kind of a nice and interesting departure from her usual fantasy worlds, which I love, by the way, but it's cool to see her do something different. There is every magical creature that you can think of in this world. We have fae, vampires, mermaids, shifters, werewolves, fire sprites. Angels, of course, how could I forget? This world is just so complex and so deep, and there's so many layers, and the plot is really, really interesting. There's also a romance, of course, and Bryce is another one of my favorite characters. Once again, a book that I think has excellent mental health representation through Bryce's journey, and I'm just so excited to reread this. It's such a joy, it's such a journey, and oh my god, the last 200 pages of this book just absolutely kill me. And it'll be really, really fun to reread this in anticipation for my reread of House of Sky and Breath. All right, so that is it. That is going to be it for my November TBR, you guys. If you made it to this point in the video, go ahead and leave the crescent moon emoji down below. As always, my Instagram and my Goodreads are linked down below. You are welcome to follow me on there at any time. I really appreciate that you watched this video. I hope that you are all having a fantastic day, and I will catch you guys in the next one.